to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
The Redhill Brothers, Part 6. Can you lend a hand? Hello again, Matt here. It's been longer than usual, and the last time I wrote, there was a lot of open-ended questions. Did Zach ever get his medallion out of the basement? Am I going to nobble Serena? What was up with the broom man in the burn pile? Well, allow me to fill you in. Also, please excuse my slower writing pace. I kind of lost my right arm. Typing is a bit of a struggle now. The miniature man made out of broomsticks certainly did concern me. Lots of weird stuff going on around here. And aside from Zach's prank, it could only represent one of us. I went closer to examine it and was hit with the strong smell of gasoline. I was planning on burning stuff soon, but I know I didn't douse it yet. And while Zach had done a lot of yard work when I was sick, he didn't mention anything about doing it today. I saw the brooms were tied together with hair, and as I began to pull out, I noticed that the string that was tied to the back of it, the thin, nearly invisible line fed through the pile of branches and into the bottom below. After moving stuff out of the way, I was shocked to find that the string led between two bricks. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was a damn trap. Whoever put the straw in there had placed a match between two bricks lined with sandpaper. If I'd pulled the thing hard enough, I would have been burned alive. I dropped the straw man and jumped out of that pile as fast as I possibly could. I'm sure I looked like something like a wounded gazelle as I leapt out and rolled onto the grass. Looking back, I saw a spark appear from the other side and whoosh! Flames erupted like it was the church all over again. Not thinking twice, I ran into the shed for the fire extinguisher. It wouldn't do a whole lot to stop that mountain of brush, but it's still the dry season, and I didn't know how long the safety color for the county would change back over to green. It should have been on the wall next to the door going into the house, but it was empty. I frantically looked around and saw it on the floor next to the woodpile. I ran over and picked it up and was surprised when a large cardboard box fell over my head. I threw it off and furrowed my brow when I saw there was a rope attached to it. Another trap, I thought to myself. Suddenly, small ropes were wrapped around me, quickly pulling me against the beam. More and more of them strapped me up tight, and before I knew it, I couldn't move. "Zach!" I yelled, hoping he wasn't in the trailer at Sheena and Melvin's. I couldn't see my captors as they were behind me, but I could hear excited chatter. High-pitched voices sounded off, and I screamed louder for Zach. "Nahuli na natin siya dali ihawin na natin a tango tu. Loco di natin piodan sanan starlin bihad natin." "Who are you? I can't understand what you're saying," I yelled. "I say we pull off a body part every day he doesn't pay us back rent," yelled one of the voices behind me. The back door to the house opened and Serena walked out. The dinosaur thing that had hatched was sitting on her shoulder and let out a hiss. It must not have liked whatever it tasted in the air. She was stunned when she saw that I was tied up. "Matt, why are you tied up? What's going on here?" "I don't know. There's something behind me talking about ripping me apart." She walked closer and squealed with delight. "How cute! Who are these little people?" One of them jumped up and leapt off my head, landing gracefully on the pool table. It looked like a little brown man, standing only a foot tall or so, with an exaggerated head and hands. It walked back and forth, stroking its beards, carrying a tiny spear in its hand. Then it stopped in front of her. You humans barged into our home, lock off the doors to the nectar room, and refuse to give us our fair share of things. This is rude, inconsiderate, and cannot be allowed." The dinosaur jumped off Serena's shoulder and landed on the pool table alongside of it. Growling, its club tail began to wave back and forth. The creature raised its spear in defense, and 2 more of the creatures catapulted off my shoulders beside their friend. "Dino, no!" Serena yelled, picking him back up. "We're sorry. We didn't know anything about you guys." It spat on the old felt below. "Well, that's typical for you giants. Just push anything out of the way to make room for yourself. Doesn't matter what's already there." "Hey, this is my house. I have the deed," I yelled. "You be quiet. This doesn't involve you," yelled the one on the left. "Listen, we're reasonable people. I'm sorry we took over your space, but we have as much right to live here as you do. Matt and Zach's family have been here for generations. Is there any way we can make it up to you?" By our calculations, you lived in our house for about 6 months. I'd say that's about 12 bottles of whiskey, and that's only the start. You get us our stuff and keep giving it every month, and we'll get along easy peasy. If not, well, let's just say this big oaf is going to have an unfortunate mowing accident." The others laughed and cheered him on. "1 second," she yelled, and ran back into the house, leaving me alone with the little men. Awkward silence filled the space, and they attempted small talk. "So, you, what do you do for fun?" the leader asked. "Sleep? It's a lot easier to avoid all of this," I said, nodding my head to the scene before me. "Oh, yeah, right. That's a good thing to do." After a few more painful moments, Serena came back holding a bottle of Jägermeister and a bag of our pot. "This is all we have at the moment. If I promise to get more, can you please let Matt go? Come on, guys, what do you say?" "Well, all right. But you remember this next time. We won't take it so easy on you," he said, walking over to take the large bottle. "All right, boys, let's go get wasted and punch a deer." "Tagay!" They all cheered. "Oh, my God. Why does this kind of crap always happen to you?" she asked, coming over to untie me. I just shook my head. I didn't really have an answer, as this was something I was constantly asking myself. I was about to go back inside and see if Zach was there, but then I remembered the fire. I grabbed the extinguisher and ran out the back door, and I was stunned. The fire that had been a raging inferno before was completely out, and I saw the broomsticks were laying against the shed, no longer in a stickman formation. "Well, I guess that settles that," I said, refusing to give it another thought. Inside, I found Zach upstairs in Uncle Bob's room. He was going through some of the boxes of Bob's old stuff, and no longer in those pink nurse scrubs. He now wore jeans and a t-shirt, with a truck on it that read, "Camel Towing. We'll pull it out when it's wedged in tight." I couldn't be sure what the hell was real when I was sick, so I didn't try to reason that out. "I know you hate it when I'm right, dude, but this had gnomes written all over it," said Zach. "Where the hell do you even get gnomes from?" I asked. "I read about it over on his desk." I scrunched my eyebrows and went over to check myself. I looked over to Bob's bed and where I saw him sitting in my dream, then over to the door to the roof, which made me shiver. There was a bunch of odd papers on his desk, and one with the doodle of a small person caught my eye. "Since our forefathers settled on this land, the duende have been coming here to drink the yolk of the Great One. Invisible to the eye unless they want you to see them, they are a mischievous bunch that enjoy playing pranks on occasion." In German folklore, it is common to leave a thimble of alcohol among various other things to preserve a friendly relationship. Once a month, I've taken to leaving them a bottle of wild turkey, as well as a couple of nuggets of the stuff I grow on the stone that juts out to the west of the house. It works pretty well, and in fact, they leave odd trinkets from time to time. I made the unfortunate mistake of forgetting a few years back, and they damn near flayed me alive. Won't be making that mistake again. Huh. I'll be damned. What are you doing over there? I read about something called the MacGuffin. It's on the end of one of those pages over there. I was hoping the book would be around here somewhere, he said, throwing random stuff out behind him. I looked down, and sure enough, there was the beginning of a sentence. The MacGuffin is a legendary weapon kept hidden in the cave below. So far, it appears to be the only thing that can, and then it cuts off. Well, good luck with your search, man, I said, lighting up a joint for my case, and went back downstairs. Serena had the radio going, and if it felt my presence, that weird station scrambled in. Greetings! The current time is 4:26 p.m. As the great clock winds down, we would like to tell residents to be ready for the coming of the Talbia. She'll bring darkness and bad tidings to you all. Should you find yourself trapped in a sinkhole, sit tight and tell a story or three. Something will be along to assist you shortly. Things will begin to get hairy for the two sons of Phillips. Be sure to stock up on plenty of insect repellent, or you might have your arms full. All 8 of them. Lastly, with Halloween changing to Thanksgiving, remember to embrace the family that you have. They may not be the ones you want, but they will always be the ones you need. Thank you, and good evening. The static came up, but before it cut out, I could make out people arguing. Please just tell them. And then Willie Nelson's Always on My Mind took its place. You heard that right? I asked. They're getting really specific lately. Why not just call you on the phone? Serena asked. I was about to answer her when the phone on the wall began to ring. You just had to ask, didn't you? I said, getting up and answering it. Hello, this is Matt. Ah, Mr. Redhill. Oh, Mr. Redhill. How delightful to speak with you again. I instantly recognized it. The light English accent, picked up in an overexcited tone. It was Major Bargast. Right. What can I do for you? The two of you did such a wonderful job of clearing out the warehouse. I think it's time for a real job. Please come by tomorrow at your earliest convenience, and I will fill you in on the details. Maybe. What's the pay? I mean, the last time we did a job for you, we kind of killed the guy. Yes, well, he was of small importance, and I won't lie. This job will be a bit more dangerous, but we shall say $2,000 to each of you upon completion. I stood up much straighter upon hearing this. Yeah, that's a pretty good incentive, I suppose. No promise, but I don't see the harm in visiting tomorrow. I gotta stop by the liquor store anyway. Marvelous. I shall see you and your brother then. Ta-ta for now, Mr. Redhill. Who was that? Yelled Zach from upstairs. Bargast, I said, putting the phone back on the hook. Says he has some work for us and is willing to pay out the nose. Wouldn't say what, though. Well, if you guys are going, I am too, said Serena. Don't you have to work at some point? I do, but not at the Bull anymore. She had a smug look upon her, with her eyes closed and head held high. What? What happened to that? I asked. I got a call as well the other night. It seems Bargast somehow knows how close we are, and offered me the job of being you guys' chauffeur and backup. Zach and I looked at her quizzically. What? It pays a lot better, and I don't have to smell hot wings all the time. I swear Zach like he was going to cry at hearing this. So he has people watching us? I asked. It would seem so. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do about it at the moment. So let's just play along and keep our eyes peeled for now. The night came and went, and the next morning I woke up to Zach knocking on the door with his giant fist. Hang on a minute, I yelled. I noted Serena was already out of bed. I slapped on some pants and opened the door. Matt, I got the medal, he said excitingly, waving it in my face. Hey, let me see that, I replied, taking it from him and looking it over. It was different from mine. At first I thought it was just holding it upside down, but then I realized the mountain was actually a very large valley dipping down into the earth. The sun that hung low in the bottom wasn't a sun. It was more oval, like an egg, and above it sat a small building. How did you get past Captain Bubbles? Dude, that's the best part. I didn't have to. I was outside getting ready to try out the riding mower after I sharpened the blades, and it just dropped down out of nowhere and bonked me in the head. I don't get it. Why is it lopsided? I asked, giving it back to him. I don't know, man. Sucks we can't ask Grandma, though. Well, why don't we ask Uncle Bob? Where is he, anyway? I haven't seen him in a while. Oh, he got called away on business. Something about a ghost conference? I don't know. Okay, then. Well, the mayor's pretty knowledgeable about these sort of things. Let's go see him. To the Redhill Mobile. We opened the door, and I headed to the driver's door and was surprised to see Serena. Apparently, she was really into this driving us around thing. So I went around and scooched in beside Zach. The ride was short and uneventful. As usual, the dirt parking lot around the long building was empty, and the three of us headed in. The secretary was still at her desk, busy answering phones as well as putting others on hold. Without even looking, she just pointed over to the fancy double doors towards the back of the building. Being Serena's first time inside here, I had to prepare her for what she was actually walking into. She continued to assure me that everything would be fine, and we walked in. The heat of the room was present, and it was just as dark as I remembered. In the center of the room was the table, with the set of candles being the only light, and I shut the door behind me. Well, if it isn't the brothers Redhill, so good of you to come, Mayor Bargas said in his whimsical manner. The figure behind the desk clacked to life as the body rose from the strings. Serena squinted to see exactly what she was looking at, and the puppet walked forward in a way that mocked a normal person. Those eyes came into view, and I shivered, remembering the last time Zach made him angry. What can we do for you, sir? I asked. There have been many reports lately of wildlife attacks. Now, I normally wouldn't be too worried about this sort of thing. The new animal control officer is, well, he's very good with these sorts of things. Well, no offense, but why not just leave it to him? Asked Serena. Well, I have reasons to suspect that these incidents are not normal. A few men in town have come back with large scratch marks across their bodies, and there are currently 3 that haven't come back. Sheriff Norris said they were raving about cougar people. Regardless of the findings, I trust we can keep them our little secret. The puppet's head dipped slowly to the side, and I swear I could see the red wooden lips curl into a smile. This guy was good. Oh, yeah, we can, Zach yelled. Quite right. To the south of town is a recreational area. The woods begin there, and about 5 miles is where the group of men were supposedly attacked. Ha! Cougars, am I right, fellas? Said Zach. He lifted a hand for a round of high fives, then put it down with a sad look on his face when there was no takers. Be careful, all of you. And take this with you. The puppet's hand reached out, the small pistol taped to it. I really didn't want to go near the thing, knowing what was pulling the strings above. Serena was more experienced with guns anyway, so I nudged her forward. She hesitantly walked towards the wooden figure and reached out to take it. There was a sharp tug of the hand, and she gasped. Looking up towards the dark ceiling, a low growl came back to greet her, and she quickly moved back to us. Money will be paid upon completion. Now off you go. We walked out as quickly as possible, almost getting stuck in the doorway. Serena let out a sigh, and I could tell how unprepared she was for that. She was silent up until we got to the truck and headed south. What the hell was that? She asked. You don't want to know. That guy is serious business. From now on, just let us deal with him, all right? Said Zach. I could tell he was sweating, remembering the last time he got a good look at the puppet master. South of town, the park came into view, and a line of trees came up to meet it. I didn't know how popular a place it was, but at the moment it was empty, with only the swings gently blowing back and forth, making me shiver. We got out and looked at our current weapon supply. We'd been doing a lot of gardening around the town, and I pulled out a spade. The best thing Zach could find was a rototiller. Not necessarily the best tool for defense against hungry cats. But in the hands of Zach, anything could be a deadly weapon. Serena, of course, had her 9mm pistol, which I was eternally grateful for. Why do you get 2 guns? Asked Zach. Because I'm the best shot. Well, yeah, but it's not like you're going to be shooting 2 guns at once, right? Fine, take the tranquilizer. No, don't, I started to yell, but it was too late. Zach has a history of substance abuse. That's not to say I didn't back in the day, but he had an addictive personality that I don't share. Immediately upon taking the tranquilizer gun, he shot himself in the leg. Really, dude? Do you feel better now? She asked incredulously. I sure do, he said in a dreamy state. I doubt he even felt it when I ripped the dart out of him. Best I could hope for was his massive frame would mean that he would be still somewhat useful, and we walked on. Zach took his place in the lead, and the 3 of us slowly walked through the trees. There was a small path that led forward, and I could only assume it was a popular hiking trail, or a place where kids would come get trashed on weekends. I think every town has a place like that. There were birds chirping around us, which was a good sign. And though the trees were thick, they were still pretty good visibility. A couple of miles in, the path turned to mud, and fresh tracks could be seen. I'm not a tracker, and I don't know anything about wildlife, but the footprints embedded there seem awful big to be a regular animal. They were definitely cat-like, and about as big around as my outstretched hand. Alongside of them were the scuffs of something being dragged. 4 long lines were raked throughout the mud, and continued on until the path turned solid again. I checked to make sure Serena had her gun ready, and she did. We continued on, listening intently on anything that might surprise us. Ahead, the trail opened up into a brightly lit area. Deep voices could be heard in the distance, and we began to sneak over to the tree line. There was a large clearing, like the mayor said, and in it were large cages made from wood. 3 men, all naked, were shivering inside of them, and outside were cat people. They were large, with the heads of a cat. Some had longer hair than others, and had cloth draped around their bodies, somewhat like togas. They were discussing what they should do with the men. What's better than a cougar? Zach asked without waiting for an answer. Were cougars, he said with a big stoned grin on his face. I ignored him and turned to Serena. Okay, how do we want to go about this? I whispered. Well, I only count 4 of those creatures. If you and Zach can create a distraction, I might be able to take a few of them out. Well, let's hope. I don't know how much a shovel's gonna... Come out, both of you, yelled a deep woman's voice. I looked over to where Zach had been and saw he was gone. The voice came from a black, short-haired Catwoman pushing along a captured Zach. I'm sorry, bro. I'm just so weak, he sobbed. Damn it, Zach, I yelled as we stepped out from our cover. What did you do now? They're actual cougar people, man. You really didn't expect me to try and get frisky with them? Silence, yelled the black-haired one. This man is guilty like the rest of them, only thinking with his libido. He shall be milked and disposed of with the rest of them. Zach's face was one of horror. It turned to joy for a moment, then back to horror. And you two, came another feminine voice behind us. I turned and saw a long-haired creature with white fur and black spots. You will be milked the same as him, she said, glaring at me. You are free to go, she said simply to Serena. What? Why are you doing this? I asked as she clamped an overly strong paw on my shoulder. With a hard shove, she pushed me forward. Since the beginning of time, men have been driving force behind all species. They kill, they rape, they do what they want without thinking of those around him. Well, out here, we have no need for such things. We take from them, and that is all. But that just makes you no better than them, I said. Out of anger, the white-haired one slashed out at me with a massive clawed paw. I used the shovel to shield myself and swung the shovel in retaliation. The blade of it drew a wound across her stomach. A line of red slowly formed along with the white gown she wore, which then fell off, revealing 6 human-like breasts. Her eyes glared, a mouthful of sharp teeth were shown, and with a loud roar, her arm shot out again. Bang! Bang! Serena fired at her. I was about to swing again when I saw the bullet wounds in her arm close back up. They had rapid healing. Great! I didn't have much time to react after that. When another of the creatures came up from behind, there was a tight pull on my right arm as I was thrown to the ground. And then nothing. I opened my eyes again and looked down to find it was gone below the elbow. I screamed and came close to fainting. I honestly couldn't tell you what had happened next, just that shit got crazy real quick. The world faded in and out as Zach screamed from somewhere in the distance. Gunshots broke out. The cougar roars were all over the place. Serena came back into view, her face covered in a mess of blood. She was yelling something to me, but it was cut off when one of the creatures chased her down. The creature came by the other way, Zach chasing it, raking the rototiller across its back, and I blacked out. I was shook awake by Serena, and the world came hazily back into focus. She had scratch marks here and there, and Zach was by the cage talking to one of the creatures. They all seemed to be catering to his every desire. What happened? I said. I'm not really sure. I thought we were all done for, but somehow Zach lost his shirt in the scuffle, and they all stopped when they saw the mark on his back. Has that always been there? It took me a moment, but then I remembered the large red birthmark Zach had that was in the shape of a cat face. Lucky for us, right? Yeah, lucky us. I looked down to where my arm should have been, and was shocked to see it still missing. The stump where it ended was tied tightly in cloth and soaked in blood. Oh, right, about that. They apologized and said you could have it back. What's left of it, at least. She helped me to my feet, and I stumbled towards Zach. She was talking to a couple of the cat creatures, and I noticed the guys were still locked up. They eyed me, and even with all the blood loss, I could see they were embarrassed. Matt, we're sorry about the arm, but you have to see it from our point of view, said the black cat. I weakly shook my head and laughed. Your point of view? You take and kill innocent men, rip my arm to shreds, and... They weren't innocent, Matt. They were rapists. For one reason or another, the police were never able to put them behind bars. So the Orin people had decided to take them out, said Serena. Years ago, we made a pact with the entity of the land. We were all survivors of assaults, and we wanted revenge. So we accepted the curse and became the creatures you see today, said the white cat. Why are you bowing to this moose? I asked, pointing my stump to Zach. He bears the symbol of our goddess and is to be revered. It is a sign of things to come and how he will be savior to us all. I bear a cat, he said with the same dumb look on his face. I'm like a king now, Maddie. I get to come by and be milked every month. Everything's gonna be okay now. Well, great. That explains everything. Can I have my arm back now? We made our way over to the edge of the forest, where the ruined remains of my arm lay, but before we could get to it, something fast darted out. It was him. Finally. You don't know how much I've waited for this moment. Be witness to the full glory of my power and weep. Oh, for Pete's sake. I can't deal with you right now, man. That curly-haired bastard tilted his head back and opened his mouth. Like a snake eating a rodent, he let it drop into his maw and began to swallow it whole. The disgusting bulge in his neck moved down like a worm, and I stood there baffled. My right arm was gone and eaten by that codpiece-wearing freak. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, his body began to glow. He levitated up into the sky and became too bright to look at. It was like some Beauty and the Beast shit, you know? How at the end, when he changes it back into a man? Well, finally he was lowered back to the ground and was no longer old or disgusting looking. He was quite beautiful, actually. He smiled. Tighty-whities were replaced by a skin-tight leotard that stretched over well-sculpted muscles. He still donned the prosthetic below it, but it was more anatomically correct, and now his lush hair was akin to that of a Greek statue. Ah, much better. Ever since your ancestors sealed away my power, I've had to bide my time and wait for you two to show up. Now I have them back. I can resurrect my dark mistress. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. Even his voice was gorgeous now. Serena pulled out her gun and fired, but either she missed by a mile, which was impossible for her, or they went straight through. Off to the side of her, Zach ran forward like a linebacker. He actually managed to make contact, but him grabbed Zach by the neck and began to lift him up. Zach reached into his pocket and slapped him across the face. He screeched like a girl and put a hand up to his burning cheek, dropping Zach in the process. You have the other medallion? Gah! As he screamed, I could see the air around him shimmer with intense heat. He sneered down at all of us, and upon seeing Zach's new entourage of catwomen, he decided to call it quits, I suppose. Oh, well, I'll be back. You better believe it. And when I am, I will pull the skin clean from your bodies." With that, he just kind of folded up inside of himself and disappeared. I didn't have a lot of strength left in me in that point, or blood, and I ended up blacking out again. I've been in the hospital for a good month, so trying to adjust to life as a Kimp. I haven't had a lot of time to post anything new. Not that there's been anything to write about. Things have been actually pretty quiet lately, which I'm both happy about and concerned by. It gave me the time to write a Halloween story, though, so hopefully you all enjoyed that. I'm also becoming a little worried about Uncle Bob. It seems no matter how much we smoke, he doesn't appear. Zach went to get our money from the mayor, but he seems to have disappeared as well. The secretary still gave him our checks, but either didn't know where he went or refused to tell. He says he thinks Bargast is afraid of him. I hate to say it, but I kind of am a little too. Well, I guess. Until next time, I really appreciate the few that has stuck by us. Thank you, and I'll be back to let you know if anything else happens. So quoth this raven. Oh, do you know, out here in Utah, we have some of those little men, too. They're known to be up on a mountain peak nearby called Mount Naomi. And I have talked to people who have seen them. Isn't that interesting? Well, of course, these are always fun. They're hilarious. They're Twin Peaks meets Gravity Falls. Anyway, if you like these, comment below and I will continue doing them. And thanks to Paul for sharing them with us. Cryptic Wanderer. Have a lovely day, my darlings. Thank you so kindly for stopping by my chateau, my darlings. It does mean so much to me. Please, if you have not subscribed, as many of you have not, please do so. Give me a like so I know what you would like to hear. And comment. I always love to read your comments. And special thanks to my Patreon and membership supporters. Ciao, darlings.